Hi guys, here we are back to my lectures for world history. Hopefully you remember a little bit from back in December. We finished up World War One. Now we're going to start talking about the beginnings, the build up to World War Two. We're going to start in Italy and how fascism came to be. All right. Do you guys remember that in World War One, why was it that the Italians joined the Allies? Because of that little bit of land on the top of Italy. Do you remember I told you that? There was that little bit of land on the top of Italy that didn't belong to Italy anymore. And the Allies secretly told them, well, if you join us and help us, then when we win, we're going to give you that land back. So Italy joined and the Allies won. And what do you think they did? They didn't give Italy all the land because people lie and governments lie. So the Allies had promised Italy, help us, we'll win the war, we'll give you this land. Well, they gave them part of it, but they didn't give them all of it. And when that happened, the Italians were furious, especially the nationalist Italians. They were so mad and like just complete chaos happened in Italy. Lots of people had looked over at Russia because right now, during this time that I'm talking about in Russia, what was happening over there? Revolution. So these so angry Italians looked over at Russia and saw their revolution and took some hints from them. And Italians started busting into factories and saying, this is the people's factory. We own this now. And they were kicking out government leaders and everything was just going wild. And because everything was going wild, it turned into a fantastic time for a big, strong leader to come in and rule. We've learned that before, just like when Latin American countries were kind of falling apart. Strong authoritarian leaders came in. Well, now we're talking about Italy. Italy's a mess. They're mad at the Allies. And along comes Benito Mussolini. Benito Mussolini. This guy, Benito Mussolini, was raised, his parents are socialist. His dad is a blacksmith. And his mom was a teacher like me. And when he was younger, Mussolini was a socialist. But by this time, which is about the late 1900s, let's go 1919, he's given up his socialist leanings and he's now, there's no real word for it yet, but he's, so the socialists on a political scale are very, very far to the left. He's now gone very, very far to the right. And he is just, he's a really good speaker. And he stands up in front of people and says, this is what we have to do to fix Italy. And people listen to him. So he gets all these intense nationalists following him. And he, so he gathers up veterans. A veteran is someone that fought in the war before. That's what a veteran is. He's gathering up veterans, he's gathering up nationalists, and he is making his own party. And when the party forms, they call themselves fascists. What does that mean, Mrs. Givens? Well, in ancient Rome, they had this, the way their government worked was there was the people in charge were authoritarians. They made all the decisions, and they had a symbol for themselves. Once again, this is ancient Rome, forever ago. The people that were in charge had a symbol that meant they were in charge and they were the rule makers. And it was called a fasces. I'm going to show you a picture. Here we are. This is an ancient Roman carrying around a fasces. If you were in ancient Rome and you saw some guy walking down the street carrying this thing, it means he is in charge, and you better do whatever he says because he's the rule maker. And so Benito Mussolini has taken all these just general discontent people, discontent, content means happy, not happy. He's taken discontents and made a party. He's named it after the fascists, and he's named his party the Fascist Party. The Fascist Party. And his whole goal was to revive Rome's greatness. You know, we all know, hopefully you all know, that in history, Rome used to be one of the greatest cities on earth. At one point, it was the biggest city on earth. Everyone looked to Rome. And Mussolini is telling his people he's going to make Rome great again. He's bringing Rome back with his fascist party. And he, let's see, he organized his followers into, like, I don't know, gangs maybe, like groups of bad people that he called black shirts. They wore black shirts to symbolize themselves. And they went in and they would break up socialist rallies and like violently break up socialist rallies. And like socialist newspapers, they would go in and destroy their property. They would destroy farmers' cooperatives. You know, let me write all this down for you. So break up socialist meetings and rallies. They would destroy leftist presses. This is like the news press. And they would destroy farmers' cooperatives. Farmer cooperatives. Remember, the farmer cooperatives are the socialist program of where all the farmers live together in one community and all the land and everything belongs to them together. They would destroy that. They used fear and intimidation. Intimidation to make political leaders listen to them and do what they wanted. You know, if somebody comes at you with a great big stick and is going to hit you with it and say, do what I say, or I'm going to hit you, most people are going to do what you say. And in general, the people supported the fascists because Italy had been in such a point of disarray. Everything had been crazy. And the fascists were coming in with their strong arm and they were getting everything together. And so overall, the people supported them. And those groups that went around doing all of this, they were called black shirts. So in 1922, Mussolini says they are going to march to Rome. They're going to march to Rome and demand changes. At this point, Italy is officially a monarchy. It's officially a monarchy. There's a king. There's a king that is in control of all of Italy. And Mussolini is just this guy up in the north making a political party. And it's very local where he is. But he, in 1922, he says they're going to march to Rome and demand changes. Well, tens of thousands of fascists start marching towards Rome. This could be very, very dangerous. Tens of thousands of violent, angry people marching towards like the king's palace. And the king, King Victor Emmanuel III was afraid of a civil war. And because he was afraid of a civil war, he handed over a lot of power to Benito Mussolini. He didn't exactly really have the right to do that, but he did it. And so now he is given Mussolini is now the prime minister of Italy. On October 30th, 1922, this was made official. So Mussolini is now the prime minister of Italy. Through force, by 1925, Mussolini had almost all the power in Italy. Like, sure, there was still a king, and there were some other people that worked in the government, but man, Mussolini was in charge. Everyone listened to him. Everyone did what he said. He was the leader of Italy. And he adopted his own nickname, which is Il Duce. Il Duce means the leader. So even though there was still a king, and sure, there were still some other people in the government, Mussolini was the leader of Italy. And his name, his new adopted name, was Il Duce. He suppressed rivals. He rigged elections. He muzzled any press that was against him. If the newspapers wanted to say anything that went against Mussolini, he just destroyed them. And he replaced all politicians with fascists that supported him. He took anyone that was against him, he took them out and put people that supported him. He even got the Pope's support. And remember, I know a lot of you are not religious, so let me remind you that religion at this time was really, really important in the world. And the Catholic religion is for Western Europe. I mean, Catholicism was it for religion mostly. And the Pope is the head of the Catholic religion. So the Pope has his own little city called the Vatican City that's inside Italy. Well, Mussolini made the Vatican City its own nation. The Vatican City is no longer part of Italy. Let me show you. I should have had that pulled up, but I can show you. Vatican City, here's a map. And it's tiny. It's that little bitty gray dot right there, you see? That's the Vatican City inside Rome, inside Italy. Let's go back in again. So this is Italy. There's Rome. And that little gray circle right there, that's the Vatican City, but it is its own country. You can get your passport stamped Vatican City. And it was Mussolini that did that for the Catholic Church. The Vatican City is where like the government of Catholicism, of Roman Catholicism is. And Mussolini made the Vatican its own nation, winning support from the Pope, therefore winning support by Catholics everywhere. And let's see here. Mussolini. Anyone that did not agree with Mussolini was either imprisoned, exiled, or murdered. That was it. You were either imprisoned, exiled, that means sent away from Italy and not allowed to come back, or put to death. So even if in your heart you didn't support Mussolini, nobody talked about this stuff out loud because you would not be happy. So the government, Mussolini's government, strictly controlled the economy. Strikes are forbidden. Wages, that's your pay. Wages kept very low. And the business owners liked this. Business owners supported fascism because under fascism, they didn't have to pay their employees much at all, and the employees weren't allowed to strike. They controlled all industry. Everything that was made was controlled by the fascists. And under fascism, production rose, but wages stayed the same. So rich people got richer. The people that controlled the factories, the factory owners, the bosses at the factories, they got richer. because the factory workers were working harder and making more product, and more product was selling to the rich people. But the workers themselves were not making any more money. They were working harder for the same amount of money. And so men were trained to be ruthless, selfless warriors. Work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. Never think about yourself. It's always value for the state. Women who had been working before, they all lost their jobs. Men took their jobs, and women were told their only duty was to the family and to make babies. In fact, this was so serious that any woman that had 14 babies got a visit from Il Duce himself, and a medal was placed around her neck. Like she won an award. She won a prize for having 14 babies. So it was only men in the workplace. Women were put back in the home, and they were told that they were to make young, strong Italian fascist for the state. One of the major goals of fascism was to brainwash children, control children's minds, because if you can catch them when they're really, really young and encourage them to obey without question and do exactly what they're told without ever questioning, then they'll turn into very obedient adults. They had these youth groups that children would join, like they'd go to school, and then after school, they would join a youth group. And the fascist youth group just trained these children to do anything they were told without question, simply obey. That was a big fascist thing. And these children at these youth groups, they were taught about the glories of ancient Rome and how Mussolini is going to bring Rome back once again, make Rome, make Italy great again, make Italy great again. They would walk through the streets of Rome singing patriotic songs, and one of their chants that they would chant in the streets is, Mussolini is always right. So you've got like groups of children marching through the streets of your city, chanting, Mussolini is always right. Mussolini is always right. Mussolini is always right. And young children are impressionable. If you train a child to repeat this, like for hours every day, they're gonna believe it. And so that was a big push of the fascist party, was to catch children when they were young. All right, by the 1930s, so this began in the 1920s with young children. By the 1930s, these children have grown up in this, and Mussolini has an army that will do anything they're told to do. Mussolini leads a totalitarian state. A totalitarian state. Hopefully you see the word total in there. A totalitarian state is a state that controls all parts of the citizens' lives. A totalitarian ruler wants to control the clothes you wear, the music you listen to, the books you read, what you do at home in your own home, and public life, how much money you make at work, the job you do, who your boss is, everything about your life is controlled. That's a totalitarian state. Now, one thing that's important is a totalitarianism is not only fascism. You can have a socialist totalitarian state. You can have a communist totalitarian state. You can have a fascist totalitarian state. Totalitarian only means they want to control you totally. And Mussolini's fascist leadership was totalitarian. He was a totalitarian fascist dictator. All right. So, what exactly is fascism? What is fascism? Well, if you ask me, what is communism? I can tell you exactly what communism is. If you ask me, what is socialism? I can tell you exactly what socialism is. If you ask me, what is fascism? Historians still kind of struggle on defining exactly what fascism is. And the reason is, so we all remember Karl Marx. Karl Marx wrote a book specifically saying what socialism is and specifically saying what communism is. But Mussolini didn't do that for fascism. And so fascism is a little bit different from one country to the next. But we're going to talk about Mussolini's fascism in Italy. Fascism, but all fascism, has a centralized, authoritarian government. So it means one strong government. It is non-communist. Absolutely. Fascism is completely against communism. Completely against communism. Policies glorify the state and not the individual. And fascism is always destructive to human rights. I'm going to stop for just a second and explain one major difference in fascism and communism. We learned about communism before. Communism is, we're going to make life better for everyone. Everyone is going to be doing better. And we're going to do that by slowly, or not even slowly, it doesn't matter the opinion, but socialism is about each individual person having a better life. Fascism is about the country doing better. They don't really care at all about the individual. They only care about the country. That's why when I mentioned before how factories are making more produce and the owners of the factories are getting richer. And so the country as a whole is getting richer and richer and richer, but the poor are just staying poor. They're staying poor. Nothing better is happening for the worker. It's only the rich that are getting richer and richer and doing better. Socialism, communism, they would say that's horrible. That's horrible. Everyone should be doing better. Each individual person should have a better life. Fascism says, no, screw that. We don't care about the individual. We only care about the nation. The nation is stronger. The nation is richer. The nation is doing better. That's what fascism is about. It's a major difference in fascism and communism. Communism is about every single individual having a better life. Fascism is about the nation doing better. Okay, so like I said before, fascism ended up spreading to different countries, and it played out a little bit differently. Fascism was a little different in Germany than it was in Italy, but a main part was fascism wants to make the nation strong. Communism wants to make every single person live a better life. So I'm going to write some, let's see if I can fit them all here. In fascism, loyalty to the state is number one. Loyalty to the state. They always have aggressive foreign expansion. That means conquering other lands, taking over, making your country bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. They glorify warfare. Glorify warfare. Anti-democratic. They reject faith in reason. And they also reject the idea of equality and liberty. Fascists believe democracy leads to weakness. And they glorify the power of the state. Okay, so in general, and this is for all fascists in every country, fascist today in 2021, fascist 100 years ago, fascist. If you ever meet someone that is like this, or you're watching the news and you see someone like this is a fascist. Someone who believes your ultimate loyalty, no matter what, your loyalty is to the state. They glorify warfare. They glorify the power of the state. They're anti-democratic. They don't care anything about reason, like reasoning, thinking, why should we do this? That's reasoning. Fascists don't do that. They just do what they're told. They reject the ideas of equality and liberty. Fascists do not believe that we are all equal. And they also believe that democracy leads to weakness. This is fascism. Okay. And why was this even, why did anyone think this was an okay idea? Well, they thought it was an okay idea because everything was falling apart. And a strong man stepped up and said, listen to me, I'm going to make Italy great again. And let's see here. I'm just looking through my notes to see. So sometimes people get confused between communism and fascism. And they'll say something like, someone is a left fascist, a left-wing fascist. Well, that's ridiculous and impossible. Now, we learned about Stalin, and Stalin was a left-wing communist, but he was a totalitarian, and he was a mean, awful, horrible man who was strong and powerful. And Mussolini was the same way, but Mussolini was on the right. Let's see. Fascist, communist. So fascists are pro-state. Communists are pro-individual. Fascist, no questions, just obey. Communists use reason to try to make things better. Fascists both usually have charismatic leaders. Charismatic means someone that talks and like you believe them. Have you ever listened to someone talk that they just won you over because they sound, I don't know, they have this way of talking that makes you believe them. Well, fascists and communists both tend to have those. Both have been known to use terror to control people. Fascists are pro-war, pro-military. Communists are not necessarily anti-war, but they're not all like gung-ho, let's fight, war, war, war. Fascists like glorify the military. If you're a soldier in the army, you're like a god. The communists are not like that. So I'm just gonna write not like that here. And both originally came into power during times of unrest. And both claim to be working for the better good. Fascists say that They're working for the good of the fascists say they're working for the good of the people, because if the country is doing better, the people are doing better. Communists say if the that's good. Let me write that down. Let me write that down. Fascists say if the country is doing better, then the people will do better. While communists say, if the people are doing better, then the country will do better. Do you see the difference there? Like, both parties claim that they're trying to do better for the people and for the country. But the fascist major focus is on the country, on the state, on the government. And the communist major focus is on the people, the individual people. Let's help the people do better. And when the people are doing better, our nation will do better. But the fascists care nothing about the individual person. They only care about the state. I hope that I can help you guys understand the difference in fascist and communist, because it's important to understand these things. I know grown adults that don't know the difference in fascist and communist, and it makes my heart sad for them because they're different. Okay, that's it. We're done. I hope you guys enjoyed my lecture, and we'll talk about this soon.